I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, 'cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 la. Singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Fuck.
All right, put down your pens, put down your pencils, step away from the keyboards, and settle in for this week's episode of the Writer's Block. Thank you first and foremost to Low Tide Kava Bar for the kava that I drank on this and every episode of the Writer's Block. Thank you to Muddied Waters Media for allowing me to do this show, and thank you to Don and Sally Wright for giving birth to me. First of all, and also thank you to Justin for giving me this kava today. Bula. Today on my show, I have a very special guest. I have Mr. Remso Martinez, who is here to talk about his book, Stay Away from the Libertarians. And truly, I think that's just the best advice possible, really, because it's just better to stay away from us. Remso, thank you so much for coming on.
Man, it's great to be here. Thank you again for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We met at YALCON, which I think many of my guests coming up, we met at YALCON. And we talked, you were working the Gun Owners of America booth?
Yep.
You were working the Gun Owners of America booth, and we started talking, and I was like, yeah, this guy's got to come on. And then you offered me a copy of your book for free, which I'm always going to say, yeah, come on my show then.
Well, I also offered you a beer, and that was a bad idea.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oops.
You didn't know, so it's totally fine. For anybody who doesn't know what he's referring to, I don't drink. I don't do anything anymore. It's
like, have you ever had Mormons come to your door to try and convert you?
Yes.
You want them to freak out? Offer them a Coke.
Yeah.
Because the Mormons own Coca-Cola. They don't drink that crap.
No, they will not drink it.
No.
So, funny story before we get into your book. Years ago, before I was sober, many years before I was sober, I was sitting at home, and my roommate was gone. I think he was at work. I don't really remember. And I was getting ready to get high. And I get a knock on the door, and I was like, oh, I wonder who that is. You know, I'm thinking maybe it's somebody who was coming over to procure something. I answer the door, and it's this group of Mormons. And I was like, oh, I really don't want to talk to these people. So I figured the best way to get them to go away, which I'm going to preface this, is not, was to tell them I was Mormon and they didn't need to waste their time on me. And so then they had plenty of more questions. And so I was answering them, apparently to their approval, which I thought was weird since I didn't know anything about Mormonism. And I said, well, guys, I need to get to work, but how about you come over tomorrow at 4:30, because I had to be at work at 4, and I knew my roommate would be there. And they said, okay, sounds great. And I was like, yeah, we'll get together and we'll worship together and all that. And he's like, okay, sounds fantastic. So they left and I went on and continued to get high, which was, what I did. And between that moment and the next day when somebody called and asked if they could have my shift, I had completely forgotten about the Mormons. So...
they're gonna learn you're not a brother, huh?
Real quick. So I'm sitting there, my roommate and I are at the house, and we are blasting, I think it was Limp Bizkit at like all the way up. Like those speakers were to 11. And there is no denying we are home. And we're playing foosball, stoned out of our minds. And there's a knock on the door, and both of us just pause, and he goes to answer it. And for some reason, I was 100% terrified to answer the door because I realized who it was. And I looked at him, I grab him, and I'm like, no. And he's like, what? And I was like, it's the Mormons. And I sprint to the back of the apartment, and we hide under the bed. And he's running, and he's just like, I don't know why we're hiding from the Mormons, but we are. And we dive, and then like we just hearing them knock over, the sound of name of Limp Bizkit song. I can't Nookie.
For the millennials listening, Limp Bizkit was the Nickelback of the 90s.
Yeah, we
had to help guide them along.
Yeah, thank you. I forget that not everybody knows about that terrible band. And he's like, they know we're here. And I'm like, I'm not answering the door. I don't want to talk about Mormonism. And eventually they stopped knocking and ringing the doorbell, and they left. And then we continued to play our game of foosball and get high. And anytime anybody talks about the Mormons, in my head I go, it's the Mormons.
Don't answer the door. It's really funny, and it's very serendipitous because people say stay away from the libertarians, but the difference is it's better to associate with the Mormons and become a Mormon than associate with the libertarians and become a libertarian, because if you become a Mormon, you're most likely going to become very, very wealthy.
Probably. And from what from my experiences anyway, most of the Mormons I know are really, really nice, and most of the libertarians I know are not. Yeah, and
the Mormons have this, kind of pushy stereotype of constantly trying to convert people, but the Mormons I've met, part of me wishes they would try and convert me, because I've seen what they do sometimes. They butter you up, they introduce you to all these beautiful Mormon women who become one of your 6 brides, and then you can go ahead and, get free food out of it. The ones I've met, they've just been like, yeah, we don't think you're cut out for Mormonism, and I'm like,
well, that's rude. When I went to my own personal hell, a bachelor party in New Orleans last year. So I'm like 3 years sober at this point.
That sounds like a bad story just at the beginning.
Man, it was rough. Like I love all of the guys I went with, good friends with all of them. We used to get wasted together all the time, and I still love them all very, very much and consider them to be very good friends. But going to a bachelor party was just about the peak level of I'm done with you people. Like, I was ready to leave people in New Orleans. At one point, I had to grab the groom and be like, no, you're done doing drugs and drinking. We're going home. And he was like, but I want to, no, stop. But we went out to breakfast or lunch. I don't know. It was brunch time, which may have been 2 p.m. I don't even remember. And we had this bartender who was Mormon.
What?
Yeah. A Mormon bartender. Dude,
how does that happen?
I don't know. He doesn't drink. Or no, he did. I think he had kind of fallen off because he was talking about...
so he's a bad brother.
Yeah, he's a bad brother. But he was talking about going to like bachelor parties and birthday parties back in Utah, of course. And he was saying, yeah, what we would we would get a beer bong and we would beer bong Mountain Dew on the bachelor parties because that's as far as we would go. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I mean, we can't drink, and we're not really supposed to drink soda, but it's like, it's a bachelor party, so we can do that.
Even the Amish go more hardcore than that.
But that dude was the funniest guy I have ever met in my life, and I wish I could remember his name right now. Because if you're ever in New Orleans, I would recommend the bar and find him and just talk to him for like 20 minutes.
As I'm stooping around the French Quarter. Hey, where's the Mormon serving people?
Where's the Mormon bartender? Yeah, that was a good time. He was the best part of that trip, I believe. Anyway, let's get on to you instead of talking about my life. Stay away from the libertarians. One first, the artwork that you've got on this, fantastic. Love the artwork. That was, who was that?
I will never know.
Really?
Because I hired a random Eastern European contractor online with a fake name and paid her in Bitcoin.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to be a super uber libertarian as I could, so nothing's like paying an anonymous artist from Eastern Europe in a cryptocurrency that's most likely linked to Russian propaganda.
Hey, if anything, you helped Donald Trump get elected.
If anything. I made America great again.
Right.
You're welcome, world.
Democrats everywhere's heads are just going...
I'm going to walk out of the house and people are going to do what they usually do, wave at me if all 5 fingers or just one.
Right. Yeah, it's either going to be, hey, what's up, neighbor, or it's going to give you just one of the big old middle ones. One of the super fingers. For a Dane Cook reference for all you people who had no sense of humor in the early 2000s.
If you know who Limp Bizkit is, you should know who that is.
You probably know who Dane Cook is if you know who Limp Bizkit is. Yeah, that's true, because they are both mediocre in both of their fields.
Strangely, we love them.
Yeah, oddly enough, both of them just shot right to the top really quickly.
And like most our life's aspirations, it just continued to go down and down. Oh my gosh, it crashed. And you just wonder how it happened.
Right. I mean, Dane Cook, granted, his brother stole like millions from him, and he just couldn't get the humor back, I guess. I don't know.
He was a bit of a dick, too.
He was a bit of a dick. And, I mean, Fred Durst is a bit of a dick as well. So it kind of just makes sense.
Which is why no one feels bad for them now.
No, not even a little bit.
Not really.
Not even a little bit.
No.
Anyway, on to your book.
Yeah, so no, I didn't do the cover, but I did provide the concept for the cover. And when I was conversing with this contractor, the one thing I told her was, this is it's a comedic book. It's originally I was going to have it just in the political science, current events section, but people kept saying, no, Remso, this is political humor. We can't take you seriously enough throughout it, which I took as an insult at the time. Now I see it's more of my pitch, but put it there. And as I was discussing what I wanted to do with the cover, I was like, I'm really a lot of my big cultural crutches are on 1950s B-rated sci-fi pop art.
Yeah. So
I was thinking with the name "Stay Away from the Libertarians," I was just thinking of Orson Welles. How would he say it? And he would be something like, "Stay away from the libertarians." Dun dun dun, and then you see a giant like Gary Johnson come out, but I couldn't put Gary Johnson on the cover because I don't want to get sued.
Right.
So I was just like something Gary Johnson-esque. And that's how the cover came to be.
You went with a Frankenstein sort of picture?
It looks like him. Look at it now and tell me you don't now see Gary Johnson.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I kind of can see a little bit of Gary in this.
I also gave her a photo of Bill Weld, and that's where you got the sandy hair. You see, now I just ruined it for you, didn't I?
Yeah, a little bit. But
now you appreciate it more. Behind the scenes, folks.
So much more. Like, I can see so much more of Bill Weld in this than I can Gary Johnson.
The alcoholic nose just really coming out at you. The drunken stupor.
You got the puffy face from just drinking way too much and stumbling all over the
place. People ask, does the Frankenstein monster have a name? And I've just been saying Gil for Gary and Bill because that's their love child. It says it's a libertarian, but it just comes out an abomination.
But I mean, it almost looks like you did a shot at Trump because you gave him very big hands.
Well, as every Universal Monsters fan knows, Frankenstein's full body is in full proportion.
Right.
So take that as you will.
Right. Well, good for him. I mean,
big hands,
big feet. Big feet. Big hands, big gloves.
Exactly.
Yeah. Large cuffs on the sleeves.
Yeah. But that was. I mean, the artwork. I mean, it has a lot of symbology that I tried to put behind it. Maybe a lot more than most people would have. But the whole book is about combating libertarian stereotypes, and the cover, I really want to convey that because people have this monstrous, horrific idea of what libertarians are, and that's the metaphor of the monster. And then you have the two people that are just your good old Tom and Jane, Americana type of folks, pay their taxes, love the government, all that stuff. Think Dick Cheney was God's gift to Earth, and they're just running away from this thing because they've been told to stay away from it. And then when they look back, what do they see? They see nothing but memes, taxation is theft, and when they ask why, when people ask them, why don't you take libertarians seriously, they're just like, well, you don't know where Aleppo is. And I'm like, neither did 99% of America.
I was going to say, most of America didn't know where Aleppo is. Most of the people didn't know what Aleppo is, much like...
There's a Syria? What's going on there in the year 2016?
Right.
I
was in the Philadelphia airport, and I was reading your book, because airport, and I was getting a little bit distracted by CNN as they were going on and on about why Donald Trump didn't thank John McCain, which I thought, why? Okay, why? Why did you think they would? But some guy that was sitting across from me, he just went, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" That book, what's it about? And I said, "Oh, it's about staying away from libertarians." It's about this guy that I know who his journey becoming a libertarian, and why you should stay away from them. And he's, "Oh, what's his name? So I can write it down. I want to get it for my son." And I said, "Oh, is your son a libertarian?" He goes, "Not yet, but I'm afraid."
Wait till his son is done reading the book and he's gonna be like, I think I just saved my son's soul. And then his son's gonna look at him and be like, Dad, I hate the roads.
Dad, I really think we need
What have I done?
We need to end the Fed. His dad knocks on his door. "Do you have a warrant?"
What have I done?
What?
What have I done?
It said stay away from them. It said stay away from the libertarians.
These damn libertarians, they got me again. Yes! It worked!
And when he said that, I went, "Oh yeah, he should definitely read this book." Because I was like, like I told you, like I'm a slow reader, so I actually didn't finish the book. I was like, I don't know how this ends. I'm assuming he's a libertarian because he was at Yalcon, but I'm not telling this guy that. I've gotten through to the point where you were like Mitt Romney's worst volunteer, and you ran for the Young Conservatives group president. And I was just kind of like, he's talking a lot about Romney, so yeah, no, this guy definitely not. You should get this for your kid.
1 minute you think you're saving your child, the next minute you just created another ANCAP out there.
Dad, I need $1,000 to start a podcast.
What did you do with my 401k? It's all right. It's in Bitcoin. It's much more stable. It's not fiat.
It's going to be going up again soon.
Just hodl, Dad. We're going to the moon. What the hell hippie commie talk are you talking about? But, it's ironic you say that because this story, I mean, it really does play into the title of the book, Stay Away from the Libertarians. It is actually inspired by a meme. It's of this mother and child. They're walking down the street and the son points, somewhere across from him. He's like, "Look, Mommy, libertarians." And then you see the next panel zones in on the mother's face. And she's like, "No, Ricky, don't look at them. I don't want you to be influenced by their," oh my God. And then the third panel is she's like, "Oh my God, Ricky!" She's screaming because the kid who looked normal in the first panel, in the third one, he's wearing like a Rothbard bow tie and he has the whole ANCAP, anarchy ball face, and he's wearing a End the Fed Ron Paul t-shirt, and he's like, "Taxation is theft, in the Fed. No victim, no crime. It's too late, mother. I've seen everything. And when I first saw that meme, like I basically pissed myself a little bit because that meme is my mother and myself. So I tagged her in the photo, and she was like, "Yep. Ever since you started reading, it just went downhill. We should have never taught you to read."
Right. And so from your book, what I gathered is that you grew up conservative household, correct?
Very, yeah.
Very, yeah, okay. And then a teacher gave you a list of books to not read, and since you, much like many others that become libertarian, much like myself, you were like, well, why shouldn't I read these? And he goes, oh, don't read those. They're crazy people. Don't read them. And you're like, well, no, screw you. I'm going to read these. So you ended up reading like Ayn Rand.
Immediately. That's like the black tar heroin of libertarian indoctrination, because I think before you can understand libertarianism, and one thing I do mention in the book is, a lot of people come to libertarianism through Ron Paul. As much as I make fun of Gary Johnson, I came to libertarianism because of Gary Johnson.
Right.
The first time I heard libertarian, I thought he just mispronounced librarian. But, the reason why I didn't really get Ron Paul at the time was because as a young kid in high school, there were just a lot of concepts that I just was not grasping. And as I'm hearing him speak these blasphemies, I'm like, why is this guy on stage? He'll never be president. I like that Gary Johnson guy back when he was running for the Republican nomination, because I'm like, this guy's very practical and sounds very utilitarian.
One of the greatest lines in any presidential debate came from Gary Johnson.
Oh, my dog has created more shovel-ready jobs than the Obama administration.
Right.
I love that. I love that. And that's the first time I really heard of him. And then the next time I heard of him, he was on WMAL here in Virginia. It's a Beltway radio station.
6:30 a.m. for you in Virginia. Or 105.9, I believe?
105.9 WMAL. Yeah. But I heard about him, and the thing about it was libertarianism, it just sounded more practical in a utilitarian sense. And I think I've always taken myself as a pretty literal person. What makes the most sense practically must be the right answer. But with Rand, she really did make me question like all my values. You read Ayn Rand, it's like going through a Spartan race of everything: spirituality, ethics, philosophy, economics, just everyday situations. So I came out of reading The Fountainhead, and I went over to Atlas Shrugged and Anthem and We the Living and Virtues of Selfishness and Capitalism and everything else. And it just it completely changed who I was down to the core.
Yeah,
and from there I started really tripping into everything else of libertarianism, Hayek, Mises, Rothbard, the list goes on. But, he gave me that list of books not to read. He also gave me a book of lists to read, and he really liked Seabiscuit. I hate Seabiscuit. I think it was a terrible book.
I never read it, and I thought the movie was kind of boring.
Yeah, Seabiscuit was boring as hell. People that say they really loved it, they're lying. They're evil hipsters. The one book he did tell me to read, which is really funny because it's a very anti-communist book, but he loved the Soviet Union, was Dr. Zhivago. And I love that book. This is the only book he told me to read, which I did read, and I love Dr. Zhivago. If you want to be a good human being, read Dr. Zhivago. But yeah, it was one of those situations where it was like, I could take his advice or I could do the opposite.
Right.
And, as a teenager, I grew up in a military household, conservative Christian family. You just didn't do what the adults told you not to do. And I still really believe in obedience and things like that to family and your elders. But I got to a point in high school where I was just like, you know what? I can't stand these people. They don't have my best interests at heart. Why am I going to listen to their advice? They don't care about me. They don't. No. They don't care about me.
No, not even a little bit. What was I going to say? Actually, before I read this, I finished reading Anthem by Ayn Rand. And that book, I got so much, I love that book so much. I wanted to get the bracelet of equality 27252, whatever the numbers are. I wanted to get I wanted to get the bracelet tattooed on my left wrist. I was just like, oh my God, I love this so much. And the guy that does my tattoos was like, think about that for a couple of days.
It's probably good you didn't get that one, but Anthem is one of those books where it's not my favorite Rand novel, but I usually tell people to read that one first because that is the original dystopian book, but it's also the one that really does show you what happens when you take away the concept of I. Because when I read it the first time, I was like, this is pretty crazy. Like, why doesn't anyone say I? And then you learn why they don't say I.
Right.
Why is it they don't talk about themselves positively? And it's like, oh, that's why they don't do it.
Everything's a we. We are not allowed to write. We're not allowed to write thoughts that not everybody has. We are not allowed to write anything down that is not shared with everybody. Like, we are breaking the law. And I was just like, what? We? Well,
it's really trippy stuff, and then once you figure it out, it's like, holy crap, this is some deep stuff.
Yeah, that book, it was so good and so well written, and it's not one of my favorite books I've ever read, but it did fill me with just like this amount of just yes. Like, I was just so excited as I was reading it.
Yeah, the one word I use to describe Anthem versus the others is haunting, and that means a lot of things. But because it has such a profound story and a profound message that it stays with you. And I read it in high school, but a few years ago I got the audiobook version for a long road trip. And when you really kind of hear it, and this time you're processing it differently, you're like, holy crap! Like, this makes you want to pound your chest and go take on the world.
Have you, did you see that the Atlas Society is doing the
graphic novel?
Well, they're doing the video version of the graphic novel.
The motion comic.
Yeah, the motion comic. Yeah, so episode 2, I got an email about, like, today, I think.
Yeah, no, if you guys have not picked up your copy of the Atlas Shrugged graphic novel, do that, and then go see the motion comic, which is at the Atlas Society on Facebook and Young Americans for Liberty on Facebook. And it's one of those books. It's a short read. Like, people complain about Atlas Shrugged, the fact that it's it takes like 6 years to read slowly. But Anthem, you can get through it in like an hour and a half at most.
Yeah, it's an easy read. Well, it's not an easy read, but it's a quick read. Like, there's a lot that you're taking in this short period of time. And so I'm a slow reader, like I told you. So it took me like 2 days to read it, which for me, that's fantastic to finish a book in 2 days. Even one as small as that one. Because, I'm that guy that, like, I'll pick up a book and I'll be like reading it, and then somebody will text me and I'll get distracted by that. And, like, I've got ADHD to the worst degree. When it comes to reading, if I'm watching TV, I'll ignore my phone all day long. But if I'm reading, it's just like any sound, I'm like, what? What? The Anthem I truly loved. What else? Oh, crap. I knew I should have highlighted the parts of your book I wanted to talk to you about. So, when you were in high school, I'm guessing, and don't take this the wrong way, because I don't think many of us were. I'm guessing you weren't one of the most popular kids.
Why the hell? No, yeah, I was not very likable. I wasn't even ignored. Like, honestly, I look back at high school, I wish they had just ignored me. No, I just was not likable. Like, and I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish they had been nicer to me. And then I'm like, no, I purposely tried to get into conflicts with people and stuff. And, I don't want people to think that I was a bully in any sense, but I was a person where it's like, I'm already this nerdy, geeky kid. I've got a weird name, and I'm still the new guy through graduation. I might as well be confrontational for things, because everyone here is just, smoking the communal commie pipe, and I'm just like, this is. I might as well get some kicks out of it, because I love to pull a fast one on people. I love to mess around. I've got a pretty self-deprecating sense of humor. Sometimes I really kind of push the limit with things, and I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, but that was funny at the time. And in school, I mean, it was really one of those opportunities in my life where I really got to see what happens when you take the I out of I.
Right.
And that's where, as I read Anthem in high school, like, everything around me kind of terrified me, because I had been, moving around almost every year since, like, second grade. I've been homeschooled, private schooled, public schooled, interchangeably. Like, 1 year I'm this, 1 year I'm that. 1 minute I'm teaching myself everything. The next minute I'm stuck in a class for 8 hours a day. And you really begin to, it's not that you grow up faster, but you take more responsibility for yourself, because you're out in the real world throughout the day. You get to encounter different people and everything, and you become a functioning member of society. In high school, I don't like the age segregation. I think what that does is that creates a balkanization of generations that doesn't get people to work amongst each other. I think it stunts personal development and the way we interact with one another, and it's just like it's the closest thing to prison that most people that don't go to prison will probably ever encounter in life. In prison, you get to encounter more people that are different than you than in public school. Right. So, there's the good thing about prison. But high school, the biggest problem with me was I was bored. I was bored all the time. All the time. I get that. I was bored all the time. I felt like nobody ever wanted to, draw outside the line. And, the thing that I always hate, I didn't include this in the book, but one of my least favorite classes, which was also one of my favorite classes, was art class, because I like to create things. What I hated was when I was told, oh, that's wrong. And I'm like, no, this is the way I like doing it. And then when it came to, politics, of course, I was in school during the era of good feelings under Obama. If you said anything about Obama, you were instantly racist and everything else. It was very
today.
Yeah.
That could still be today, where if
you're still a racist, but back 100%. Then it was like you're going to the principal's office now. These days it's like, yeah, shut up and let's move on to class. Back then it was like, we're calling the cops. And I got pulled into the principal's office so much for saying things that disturb students. Things like, I believe the family is the most important foundation of society. And then people are like, yeah, but what about the village? And I'm like, what? They're like, what about the village that raises the children? I'm like, the village is full of idiots.
Right.
Why would I want them raising my child?
I don't want the village raising my child.
Yeah, it's like, that's why the village is burning itself down. And they're like, that's hate speech. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'm going to principal's office again. It was one of those times in my life where, I would call myself a conservative, but, no one teaches you what conservatism is. Unless you come from a conservative family, you're not going to learn it in school. You're definitely not going to get it on TV. So, in my mind, being a conservative is just being a contrarian. And then I learned what it meant to be a conservative, is I'm like, wow, this is still kind of crappy. So I guess I'm just nowhere. And then that's where I hear about this Gary Johnson guy and everything else. And I was like, this is making a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In 2012 I was living in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. In Nashville, Tennessee. And I was working at this restaurant. It was a pizza place on 12 South. For anybody who lives in Nashville, you probably know which one I'm talking about.
That's where I used to go party when I went to college in Alabama.
Really?
Oh, yeah, man, 2013, 2014.
I love Nashville so much I had to leave.
That's a good excuse.
Yeah. Nashville's a great time. I still go back I go back like twice a year and I have a great time, but now I do it sober, so it's not as much fun as I remember it. And all of my friends get real annoying right around midnight. And I'm just like, okay guys, I'm out. See you. Like I always drive separate now. But one of my bosses there he was staunch libertarian. And he and we became really good friends because we both love the Red Sox. And so we would talk about baseball a lot.
Okay, the interview's over.
Oh, God, you're not.
Say it!
You're from D.C.
And?
How are you?
You gotta rep the home team.
Where were you born?
Arizona. I'm a Cardinals fan for life.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, so the feud's not there, but it's there.
I was like,
as you were saying, my bad.
It had been 86 years. Leave us alone. You guys have had more than us. I was like, oh, God, is he a Yankees fan? I will end this interview right now. Man, I was real worried for a minute. I was like, oh, God. I brought a Yankee fan.
Yeah, this got very contentious. This
really
was not
quick.
This happened. You just saw this.
But yeah, so we started talking Red Sox stuff, and then we started talking politics. And I knew that I was a libertarian in mindset, but I wasn't like full-fledged. And then we started talking more and more, and he had me hanging out with the group Liberty on the Rocks. So I was hanging out with them a little bit, and even though I was like, these people are all nuts. Every one of them, they're kind of crazy, and they all kind of look a little, what's the word?
Crackhead.
Thank you. That's a good way to put it. I call them the Lord of the Rings, the golems. But
some are really short, some look like elves because of car accidents,
right.
And others are just trippy because they hear voices in their head.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all very pale because they spend a lot of time inside. So I was just kind of like, okay, this is weird, but the conversations we had were good conversations. And I was like, okay, well, I can put up with this. And then slowly I started realizing, oh, I'm definitely not a Republican. I am definitely a conservative, or definitely a libertarian. And so he kind of brought me into all of that. And then when I left Nashville and I came here to Florida, I started working with the Libertarian Party of Pinellas County. And then after that, it was over. Like, there's no bringing me back from the Republicans. Keep trying with great people that I like and respect, but it would take way too much for me to ever say, no, I'm a Republican ever again. Don't think there's anybody out there that could get me to say it, because you're going to have 48 other people in the Senate that I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm at the point in my life where, I would never call myself a Republican. Now I am a Republican, and people are like, Remso, you're against everything you said you were against. I'm like, yeah, but what does Republican mean?
Right.
It means nothing. So what?
It's a series of ideals that you make promises for that you don't actually intend to keep.
Yeah, but like I tell people this all the time, and it's part intentional, it's part antagonizing, part truth. But like, I'm a better Republican than your most staunch Republican.
Right.
Like I am. Like words have meaning. I abide by everything: free markets, civil liberties, limited government, Bill of Rights. It's everyone else that sucks.
And that's the way that that's the way that I look at it. Is I care about the Bill of Rights so much. Like, all 10 of those amendments are the only real laws I think we have.
Yeah, and besides, when I get, all these old party hands and, boomer conservatives come at me, I'm like, listen, it's not my fault the conservatives destroyed the Republican Party. And then they're just like, what did he just say? I'm like, listen, we were a liberty party, freeing the slaves, going up against unconstitutional war, protecting our Bill of Rights. It's you guys who suck.
Yep.
And then they're like, what the hell? And I'm like, listen.
You guys started to want to put your values on everybody as opposed to just letting people be.
You didn't just give us one Bush. You gave us two. What did we give you? Reagan, Barry Goldwater, Ron Rand, Mike, Ted, the other Mike, Justin. The list goes on. Like, we're doing good. It's the rest of y'all that need to get in line. And then they're just like they want to take a cyanide pill.
They gave us 14 years of Nixon in the White House. 8 years as VP and 5.5 or whatever it was as president.
Very short, but still too damn long.
Right. And then we ended up with Ford, which, that was entertaining, I guess, at the very least. Cause
it's like the intermission of a theater play or something. It's like, are we back to the real president now?
Right. Are you going to run or no? Oh, you
Bring
are.
back Agnew.
Wasn't he in jail at the time?
He was, but he was still more likable than Ford.
I think Ford possibly had a chance of winning re-election if he didn't pardon Nixon.
Probably.
He was going up against Jimmy Carter, who, even though Jimmy Carter gets a bad rap in today's society, because he deregulated a lot. So I'll give him that. His foreign policy,
I would trust Carter to watch my house and feed my dog.
I would trust Carter to build my house.
Yeah, I would not trust him to build a functioning economy or protect a country.
No.
It's like know your limit, Jim. Know your limit, Jimmy.
But I would trust him on which peanuts to buy. I bet he's got some good insight into the best peanuts on the market.
Yeah, like of all the presidents, like Carter's probably just always been and always will be the most likable, but he'll always be the worst. Like, you have to be really bad to beat Jimmy Carter's presidency. You almost have to intentionally start another civil war or something, or just be Bush or Obama. Like, you have to try. You really have to try. It's like, wow, if we try hard enough, we could be terrible.
Yeah, essentially you have to go, okay, the country seems like we're kind of together right now. Let's put a wedge in that and just spend the next 16 years driving that wedge even deeper with every single thing that we do and split it so far apart. But the great part is we'll blame the guy after that.
Oh, there you go. That's all you need.
So libertarians are kind of all over the place on Trump. So Muhammad, my co-host, as you know, was recently on Fox News, allegedly acting as a Trump supporter. Not what he said, granted, but that's what the headline reads, so we're going to go with it. So where are you on the God Emperor Trump?
Screw it. He's the best president of my lifetime.
Okay.
No, like you know, when we compare him to everyone else, I'm 23, so I don't have much of a pool to select from, but
right,
the ones that...
Clinton, Bush, Obama, and him, right?
Yeah, like, of those guys, like, Trump is the best. And Trump, I was a big Never Trump guy at the beginning, but, you know, I'm a big actions person, and I'm willing to be wrong if that means being wrong means that things are good, because if I'm right, then that means that we're about to hit a nuclear apocalypse. But I mean, you know, I think people who want to hate Trump will always find a reason to hate him. People that love Trump will always find a reason to love Trump. I'm a pretty selfish person, so my biggest thing is what is best for me. What's best for me is that we have a good guy and Judge Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court. Yes. We've got guys like Ben Carson at HUD and Rick Perry at Department of Energy, and rest in peace, Scott Pruitt at EPA. Like, we've got good people. And Trump has made some things where I've just been like, dude, why the hell are you doing that? And then he's done some things where it's like, wow, this is really good. But, you know, you look at what the guy has lost. Like, he's lost a ton of his net worth. Let's be honest. The stuff that goes on with the media and with our, you know, Hollywood culture and everything else, it bugs him. Like, he's a human at the end of the day. Like, you don't go through all of that just because you want to screw people over. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But he's done more good for the country than most presidents in U.S. history. I mean, you know, these Democrats, they're like, oh, he's a racist. And I'm like, oh, is he so racist that he's going to stick people in a concentration camp like your hero, FDR?
Is he throwing people into prison unconstitutionally just because they go against him like Lincoln? No.
Yeah, well, I mean, even, like, you know, people forget about the guy from the Innocence of Islam video who supposedly started the Benghazi attacks. Like, that guy got his writ of habeas corpus suspended and everything else. Like, you know, all these people who are like, Trump is a fascist, I'm like, so show me.
Right. Show me one thing that he has done that makes him a fascist.
The only people that are literally enforcing, and let's call it as it is, because I've seen the segregated water fountains and the safe spaces at college campuses, like at the University of Virginia, where they have no whites safe spaces and stuff.
I knew about that, but do they really have segregated water fountains somewhere?
I think it was Mizzou or something. They have segregated water fountain. I'm like, oh my god, you guys are bringing back segregation. Like, you freaking suck. Like,
in the state that they were fighting against it so hard.
They weren't fighting against it. The Democratic Party was the party that created the Jim Crow laws and everything else. I lived in Alabama for several years. Most of the Democrats there still wish there was segregation.
Right, but wasn't that where the high school was, where they did the protest outside?
That was Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh, was that Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Arkansas.
My bad.
And, like Trump has done bad things. I don't like the fact that John Bolton is in the White House lurking around and stuff. But, you know, like, he's done some amazing things. Our economy is better. He's been actually enforcing good diplomacy. I mean, he's got Rand Paul in his court. You know, I've been dealing with some, I've been dealing with understanding how the terrible medical insurance, apparatus works because of some stuff in my life, and he's freeing up, the markets to go ahead and get insurance across state borders and stuff. Like, he's done a lot of good. I'm willing to take the good and the bad because overall, is he screwing our nation over? I don't think he is. I didn't vote for him in 2016. He's not a libertarian. I'll probably vote for him in 2020 because the question is, have things gotten better? Do I think they'll get better? I actually do think they'll get better. So there's that. Now people are not going to buy my book because of that.
Reagan, back in 1984, his entire campaign was, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" And that was his entire ad campaign, which obviously that was, who was that? I remember, what says I remember the VP candidate from that year, and I don't remember who the presidential candidate was.
Jack Welch.
Was that Jack Welch?
He's on Fox all the time.
It was Geraldine Ferrero was the VP candidate. So I always remember from Geraldine Ferrero. But
Mondale Ferrero,
Walter Mondale. And Walter Mondale got just cleaned, just abused. Not as bad as Dukakis, but I mean, still bad.
Oh no, he got worse than Dukakis because he lost every state but his home state. I
thought Dukakis did too.
No, he won more than one. I know that. But my favorite quote from the final Reagan-Mondale debate was when the moderator asked Reagan if his age was going to be a problem, and Reagan was like, sir, I refuse to let my opponent's youthfulness and inexperience be a talking matter in this race. And everybody laughs. Mondale laughs. And Reagan's just there with that smoldering smile he's got.
Right.
And Mondale, he even says it in interviews since. He's like, the moment he made that joke, he won his re-election.
I think it's funny that if you look back on past presidential and vice presidential debates, you get really great quotes from each one. Like, that one that you just said, and then from the vice presidential debates in 1988, where the guy was talking to, oh my God, I'm blanking on the VP's name from 88. Dan Quayle. He says to Dan Quayle,
Mr. Potato.
Well, yeah, Mr. Potato. And he said, I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. You are no Jack Kennedy. I know Clinton had one in 92 that was great that I can't think of off the top of my head. And then each year you kind of have good ones. And then from this past election, the greatest quote from this past election's debates is, wrong.
You'd be in jail.
Or that. wrong. If I was president, you'd be in jail. Like, those are, that's it. Like, it's not the well thought out, poignant poeticness of these past ones.
But they always come down to one thing. It's what defined the narrative. And, what really killed Romney, was when it was during the second debate, the foreign policy debate. And what I think killed him in 2012 was when Obama said the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. Because he did to Romney what he did to McCain, and it didn't, wasn't as aggressive, but it was still there. The idea was Romney is old and Romney is of the past, and I'm young and I'm like you and I'm here right now.
Right.
When I heard him say that, I knew instantly people were going to say, he's not even George Bush. He wants to take us back to like the 1950s. And then he pulls out, it wasn't even the 51% of America the 47% of America doesn't like me. It was the binders full of women thing. And honestly, like, Democrats, they started crying when they really realized that Trump was president, around Thanksgiving, because they started all begging Mitt Romney to try and contest it or something, because they were like, oh my gosh, look at what we did to Mitt Romney. If you really look at, all the Republican candidates that we put up probably in the last half century, like, Mitt Romney was the cleanest person we put up there. Barry Goldwater is a personal role model of mine and everything else, but let's not forget, his daughter ended up being a delegate for Obama in 2008. And he made one of his kids get an abortion. We don't talk about that. By the way, he was not a fan of the religious right either. Everyone had flaws. Everyone had some stuff where it's like, this is kind of shifty shit. Now, if you're a Democrat, you'll excuse Ted Kennedy intentionally leaving his secretary to die.
Murdering somebody.
Yeah, murdering somebody. I thought the movie Chappaquiddick, I saw that recently. I thought that would make me feel bad for Ted Kennedy, but there's a scene where one of his cousins goes back to the beach house where everyone was hanging out after they figured out that Mary Jo Kopechne had died, and the first thing they say is, "What do we do to help the senator?" It wasn't, "Let's call the cops to get her body out." It was, what can we do to help the senator? And as I'm watching this film, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they're all complicit in murder.
Yeah.
Like, this makes me hate them even more.
Well, actually, that's actually really good to hear, because I didn't watch that movie because I didn't want to have any sympathy for Ted Kennedy.
It won't give it to you.
Good.
If anything, it'll be like, holy crap.
That is actually really good to hear, because I remember hearing about that story when I was really young. You probably don't know this, because why would you? My uncle used to be a editorial cartoonist, and he had there was this book we had of all of his editorial cartoons, and he had one of Ted Kennedy, because I think he was getting ready to run in 1980 or 1976. I don't remember which one. 80. And it's like Ted Kennedy's presidential campaign, and then it showed a car coming over a ravine, and it said Chappaquiddick on it. And
oh, that's cold.
I know.
That's smart, but that is cold.
He was kind of heartless in that time, but I mean, it was a great.
Not as heartless as leaving your secretary at the bottom of a lake.
It was such a cold thing to do, but at the same time, it was inaccurate. It was completely accurate, because as soon as Chappaquiddick came out, his presidential campaign just died, much like Mary Jo Kopechne.
This won't spoil it for you because it's based on a true story.
Right, I know how it ends.
But like in the last scene, they actually show clips from the press conference, and they're asking people, "Would you still vote for him for president?" They're like, "Yeah, I would." Everyone kills their secretary sometime, and it's just like they don't care. Like, they don't care. No, they really don't.
They don't. And actually, so Bill Clinton, as we all know, cheated on his wife. Very famously cheated on his wife.
That's not even, honestly, like, that's the thing I care about least.
I know, yeah.
I care about that least. He sold grave sites at Arlington Cemetery to the highest bidder. He gave the Chinese and North Koreans the components to build, ballistic missiles. Right. Like, there's so much other stuff that people could get mad about. Agreed.
But, so, the Republicans get all upset about that. But the Democrats are like, oh, it doesn't matter. That's his personal life. That doesn't matter. And the Republicans are like, no, he shouldn't do that. He's a president, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to today, and it's the exact opposite argument. And it's like, yeah, but, who cares? That's his personal life that he was banging out a porn star. And on both of them, I was kind of like, who cares? It's his personal life.
At least the person that Trump had an affair with was hot.
I got to say, I was younger when the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke. And they were formidable years. And I would have.
I mean, she's not bad. She's not bad looking. No, I mean, everyone is great when you compare them to Hillary.
That's actually, except for maybe Chelsea.
Yeah.
Put them next to each other, and you go, you get to take one. It'd be like, ooh, God. And is it 1996 Hillary, or is it today Hillary?
I don't see much of a difference. Like, I know what she looked like in 96, but I don't really see much of a difference. I still see, like, I look back and I try and give her, like, some type of pass. I'm like, she's a human at the end of the day. And then I'm like, no, she's not.
No, she's not. She is almost as far from human as possible.
Yeah.
She is heartless and she is soulless, and the simplest way to put it to anybody, she is such a terrible person. She lost to Donald Trump.
She lost a rigged election.
Right. She lost an election that was completely rigged.
I almost got kicked out of a class one time the day after the election in 2016 when I was at Liberty University. One of my professors almost kicked me out of the class for the rest of the day because I said, I want to go ahead and, I don't believe in comparing Hillary Clinton to Satan because that's offensive to Satan. And the class, anywhere else that would be funny. At Liberty University, I was
at Liberty,
God.
that's not a funny joke.
God.
I know multiple people who went to Liberty, and I can understand why that joke did not go over really well.
I'm probably the worst person that school ever produced. Probably. And I didn't even vote for Donald Trump.
Almost everybody else in there did, though.
As I tell other Christians, if you really want to get to heaven, pay $200,000 for 4 years at Liberty University, get a fast pass, and then be told the only way to get through is to vote for Donald Trump or you're going to hell.
I find it funny how much the Christians have just glommed on to Trump, because I'm like, really? This guy? This guy? This is the guy that you're like, yes, this is who Jesus wants. And I'm like, I understand that you're saying that because you have to, but really?
Like, it's just us girls now. Right. It's like, you could tell us this. It's
totally
like...
fine. Totally fine. I won't tell your secret to anybody. It's fine.
Yeah. It's like dead to rights. I'll never tell.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you got your book out. Right now you're not doing your podcast. You said you're taking some time off. You're working for YAL, Young Americans for Liberty, for my 3 viewers who don't know what that is. What else do you have coming up on the horizon? Do you have anything new? Do you have anything fun?
So between 2017 and now, I was doing the podcast full time, right. Did 100+ episodes. I wrote the book. I managed a campaign. I went back to being a contractor for campaigns and nonprofits, and I was working on the book. And I put out a documentary about Nick Freitas, which got thousands of views and was mentioned in the Washington Post favorably from them. Ironically,
that's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, I know. They don't like me there either. Neither does the other Horseman of the Apocalypse, the Huffington Post, but that's a different story. But I'm at a point where right now I'm just taking a break and I'm reassessing things. I think I want to do another book. I've been quite open about that, but I really just want to relax for a little bit and promote my book and make some money off of it. And my biggest thing is I've been trying to I've been going on shows like yours. I've been going on radio. I've been talking to student groups. Like right now is where I'm just offering myself as a resource to people, and I'm trying to help out. And, the great thing about Operation Went at the Door at Young Americans for Liberty, which I'm currently working on, is we're helping hundreds of potential Ron Pauls, potential Thomas Masseys, future Liberty leaders get to where they need to go. We're trying to build the bench with 250 Liberty legislators within the next couple of years, and it's happening every day. We've had a total of 8 victories thus far in the primaries. These are actual libertarians. Like, these are Liberty people. These are Liberty legislators, and I love the fact that I can do this. And at YALCon, I sold out copies of my book. And I could have never done that a few years ago. And it's not because of me. It's because, Liberty is sexy. Like, Liberty's popular. People love it because they have more fun. And, fun's a big part of it. That's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, because everyone writes another Libertarian manifesto every year, or another regurgitation of Man, Economy, and State by Rothbard. I wanted to write a book that gave a face to the massive faceless hordes of libertarians, but I wanted people to laugh.
And I have to say, the praise that you have for this book, Jennifer Grossman, CEO of the Atlas Society, Dan Woos, thank you. I don't know. I know the book, but I didn't know how to pronounce his name. Good gum, bad guy. Alec Merst, who I love that guy. That guy's amazing. He's one of the greatest speakers. Alex Merst, he is the vice chair of the Libertarian Party.
He's now the vice chair of the Libertarian Party, yeah.
Tim Prouse of the Tim Prouse podcast, and Dallas Jenkins. Like, those are some good names to have saying that you've got a good product here.
Those are just the ones in the book.
Right.
It also received praise, and, I'm just going to go on a tangent for a minute. It received praise from, believe it or not, Ben Shapiro.
Really?
Michael Knowles.
Okay.
Sean Tima from Young Americans for Liberty. Josh Withrow from Conservative Review. Autumn Price from Rare .com. I mean, it's just, and folks, you could see it online, but I mean, I've received reviews from Students for Liberty North America, Daily Wire, Lone Conservative. I mean, people that would not typically, you know, be associated with the libertarian book, and then some of the usual suspects, they liked this because what I think the book reached to a lot of people was to find the common humanity and why libertarianism is what it is at the end of the day. Because what it is it's a philosophy based on peace. Its principles look out for the betterment of everybody. And at the end of the day, libertarians, they don't want to tell you how to run your life, but what they do want is they just want to see at the table. Because for so long, we weren't even allowed that. And, you know, because I make fun of myself quite often throughout the book, I think that made them take a little bit of sympathy on me. So I've had everyone from Libertarian Party members to Republicans to staunch conservatives to staunch, you know, atheists, Christians, everybody. Like, this book is a book for everybody. And that's the one thing I wanted to achieve. And people were kind of shocked. You know, Dallas Jenkins is a good friend of mine, and his dad wrote the Left Behind series.
Really?
Dallas, yeah. Yeah, Jerry Jenkins.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So he wrote the Left Behind series. Dallas is a film producer. He's working on a show called The Chosen right now, which is about the life of Christ and the people around him. It's an amazing show. Go check out The Chosen on YouTube and other places, on Facebook if you can after this. But, you know, he did a film which is hilarious called The Resurrection of Gavin Stone with, you know, Flint from Scrubs and a couple of guys from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A lot of great cast in that film. But, you know, what people don't know about Dallas is he's a very staunch libertarian.
You mentioned the greatest show of all time, Scrubs?
Yep. You know the janitor?
Oh, Neil Flynn?
Yeah, Neil Flynn. He was in that show. He was in the movie The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. But, you know, Dallas directed that. But Dallas is a big libertarian, and people don't really know that. So I was really honored to get his input in that, because what I want to show people as well with those reviews is that all those people are extremely creative people. And it's not just the people in politics that are affecting things, it's also people in just everyday life. But, you know, culture is a big thing. And Dallas is one of my role models because he really promotes his virtue and his ideas and his beliefs through culture, through the medium of film and his other writing. I mean, his father's series as well, Left Behind, left a profound impact on me as a young adult. So, I mean, this book is a book for everybody, and honestly, I'm surprised people like it. Today, and I can break this now, yesterday I actually made a post on Facebook thanking people for helping me break 800 copies. A few hours ago, I broke 1,000.
Nice. That's excellent. That's such a good feeling.
Yeah, and I self-published this thing, too.
Right.
I mean, the book is about something no one wants to talk about. It was self-published. It was competing against a lot of other books that were supposed to be better, and it's from somebody that's never written before.
Right.
So everything that was not supposed to happen happens, but it's not because of me. It's because people found something that they could read and learn, but enjoy as well. Because the biggest fault in America is that we can't laugh anymore.
It's very
Laughter has become criminal behavior.
Yes, especially because we're normally laughing at something that people find to be criminally said.
You said it, not me. But
it's
you know,
true,
my
though.
biggest,
People are just
you're right.
You make a joke, and people are like, "Oh, that's hate speech. That's racist. That's, you know, whatever." And it's a joke. It's just a joke.
That's one of the reasons why the number one person I make fun of in the book is me. Like,
I mean, and you do. You make fun of yourself a lot.
I'm the biggest punching bag in the book.
Yeah, you are. And you make fun of yourself a lot in this book, which I do appreciate, because self-depreciating humor is one of the finest forms of humor, actually, and one of my favorite ones to use. It also gets sympathy points, which I like as well.
As a writer, I think that did help me a bit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, growing up, I entered writing contests as a kid and stuff, and I always did fiction. Blogging as a blogger helped me get ready and get me prepared for the book. But, you know, my biggest thing is I don't just want to tell you a story. I want you to be part of the story.
Right.
And even though people can't be me, they can identify with me. You know, in the book, I talk about a lot of mistakes I've made. In the book, I talk about a lot of wrong assertions I made. In the book, I talk about a lot of things that people really may have gone through. Caitlin Grimes from Students for Liberty, she's the North American SFL communications director. One of her favorite parts of the book where she was talking about all the where I was talking about all the students that were crammed in the hotel room as they were going to a conference. You're not in SFL or y'all unless you've been crammed in a hotel room going to a conference at some point. And I talk about a lot of journeys that a lot of people have been on, and a lot of inside things where it's like unless you've been there, you won't know it. But that got a lot of laugh points from a lot of people who are libertarians who have been in those situations. Because, very often, a lot of our role models, like, let's be honest, a lot of our liberty role models are in media or they're dead. That's just it.
That's actually very true.
Yeah, like, you can't really relate to a lot of them.
Right. It's like, I really like the, obviously Massey Amash, Rand Paul, Mike Lee. Like, I like them. But
here's the thing. I could never relate to Thomas Massey. No. He's a genius who built his house.
Yeah, I could never.
I can't fix my car.
No, I could never relate to that guy. Like, I'd love to sit down and like have a non-alcoholic beverage with him at some point, but I couldn't relate to him because he'd be like, so I built the generator out of sticks and this coconut.
It was just that easy,
right? And I would be like, okay, good for you.
I got myself a paper cut today.
Yeah. I had to hit backspace a few times, and after that, I got nothing.
But yeah, I mean, that was I think something that I didn't realize about the book that people liked until they started bringing it up to me, and I realized I think that was one of the biggest things because it's a journey that so many of us go on, and sometimes it's a thankless effort as an activist. Sometimes you really wonder if this is really worth it when you're crammed in a hotel room with several other people, and that was one thing I really wanted to show people. It's like this liberty movement, it's not about one person, it's not about one cult following. It's about you and your pursuit of what you want. And what is what you want? You want a freer society. Whatever reasons you want that for, your own. But you got to be able to relate to people. There's a one thing I'll say to really kind of, float my own ego. I don't think it's the best libertarian book ever written, but my God, if it's not the funniest libertarian book you've ever read, I don't know what is.
That's actually going to be very accurate, because I've read a lot of libertarian books, and they are very dry. And this one I was laughing audibly laughing out loud, like actually LOLing, as opposed to not LOLing when most people say it. Thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate it. Keep us. Do you have a website that you can pitch really quick?
Yeah, go ahead and check me out. rwmartinez.com. That's where you can get all the updates on the book and everything else. And please go ahead and get the book. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can go ahead and get it in print or ebook format.
And I don't know if you watched Muddied Waters of Freedom on Tuesday, but my co-host resigned because he's got to go work on some stuff. And I'm actually looking for people to fill in, and I'd love for you to fill in at some point.
I would be honored. I'd love that, man. We'd have a blast.
Oh yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I'll get together with you after this, and we can kind of figure out like when would be a good time to get you on. I'm going to be trying out a bunch of different stuff to figure out the best format that we can do for it. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Let me do the outro and then hang out for a minute, and I'll talk to you a little bit more in just a second.
Sounds good, man.
Cool. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Thank you to Remso Martinez for coming on. His book, Stay Away From the Libertarians, is available. You can get it on his website, rwmartinez.com. You can follow us on Facebook.com/Muddied Waters of Freedom. You can follow us on Twitter at Muddied_Waters or on Instagram at Muddied Waters of Freedom. We are on YouTube, but you have to actually search for MW Media. MW Media. As soon as we get to a certain amount of subscribers, I can actually give us a URL. So go and subscribe today so I can give you a real name. Again, thank you all so much, and sit back down at your typewriters, pick up your pens, pick up your pencils, because writing is the biggest way that we can make a difference.
I am swinging from a 7-story window. throwing parties in a 10 by 7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 la. Singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help.